trials indicates that the effects on their behavior appear to be due to a unique intolerance to these substances and not to any inherent neurotoxic properties. Now, come on, FDA. They're not going to remove those because of the way that our political system is structured in the United States. And unfortunately, when we have so many of these companies and their lobbyists paying out big bucks, they do tend to get what they want in the United States. You need really to start taking control of what you're able to get control of. We find that, we'll get into some of the drugs that the medical field uses and how they treat it. But I am going to go through how we deal with that from a holistic standpoint. In alternative healing, it really doesn't matter what all of these labels are. There are specific systems of the body that are involved, and a well-trained alternative healer takes a look at those different systems that are involved and add specific nutrition and supplements to bring those systems into balance. When we have the nutrients that are needed and we give that into the system, take that in, the body has an amazing way of being able to correct the imbalances that are going on. There's also been research by a Dr. David Schaub. He is the clinical professor of psychiatry at Columbia University. And they found that artificial food colors lead to neural behavioral toxicity. It appears that the FDA will remain silent on food dye regulations, other than to say more research is needed, as all the FDA is going to be able to continue their dogma at insisting more and more research, even though we have other countries who have concluded with their research and know the toxicity that is being ingested by children and adults. Hyperactivity, the research shows food dyes cause hyperactivity, and they should have asked, the FDA should have asked, or maybe the council, the Center of Science in the Public Interest, the CSPI, maybe should have asked the FDA that they need to show some proof if the dyes are safe. However, the best way to get more color into your diet is to choose foods that are already naturally colorful. Take a look at fresh fruits and vegetables. There is a rainbow of colors, and none of them have artificial coloring. You do have to make sure that the food is certified organic. Or we start to get into some of the chemicals that we're going to go through here that are on the food that do have an effect into the body that settle in. I've said this before, you keep ingesting these chemicals and the brain figures that you need it for something, it just hasn't figured it out yet. So it is important that you do need to take control of what you can take control of. You need to read all labels. You need to check for food dyes. You need to check for chemicals. A good rule of thumb is if you cannot pronounce what is in the ingredient label, then you should not eat it. So I want to go through some of these food dyes again because they are so common in foods, and you can pretty much pick up anything and find the food colorings. And I want to point out that every year food manufacturers use over 15 million pounds of artificial food dyes into the food that is sold and marketed in the United States. And people wonder why we don't export to other countries. It boils down to other countries don't want our food. They don't want a lot of our products. There's a lot of things they don't want from the U.S. because they do respect and recognize that there's a food chain, and they don't want their things thrown out into the, thrown out into landfills.
Right. May I chime in here?
Sure.
Just going about with the dyes and stuff like that. There's this company, I can't really remember where they're at, but they claim that they can flavor in. You send them whatever idea that you want for a flavor, and they're going to manufacture this flavor for you, right? And you're seeing it in a lot of like Pringles where seeing like the baked potato and sour cream.
Pringles had a big thing,
Doritos is the same thing. You know, those little green and red crystals that you see on the Dorito chips. Those are actually flavor enhancers, which are nothing but pure chemical that you're ingesting and your body cannot tolerate. So that, it made me start thinking, man, no wonder we have an obesity problem. Because no wonder they're eating so much sometimes because they're not getting any real calories or real proteins or real starches that they need, and it's all this flavor enhanced stuff that they love and they crave. Well, that's the problem, man. These flavor enhanced makes you crave.
That's true. That's very true. And that's why, you can notice that people that allow their children to eat foods that they shouldn't be eating, that's why it's not uncommon for, a 3-year-old to throw a specific fit for a certain type of potato chips, Pringles, certain kind of flavored corn chips, and it is. We not only have the problem with all of the chemical reactions and toxicity from the food dyes, but the array of different chemicals that are used as flavor enhancers. Those chemicals are also used to stabilize those foods, to help the shelf life on them, for them not to deteriorate.
Right.
It's like if you go to YouTube, there was someone who went and bought some of the specific meals from the different hamburger places and for children, and they bought these 4 different ones, and they bought the meals that were put together for the children. And when you watch that and the time lapse on it, only one place that had to be thrown out. The hamburger had to be thrown out within a couple of days because it was deteriorating, and that was from Wendy's.
And McDonald's stayed there for like over a year, huh?
Yes. The thing is that even the buns did not mold. The hamburger did not mold. The French fries still looked like they did when they were purchased 6 months later.
Well, Subway just went through this deal where they found out that one of their bread softeners was the same chemical that they put in yoga mats to make yoga mats. Now, that makes me say, well, okay, that's Subway, and I guarantee you, I almost bet you all the rest of them that use buns as well, or whatever the case may be, probably using the same stuff. So if you like eating yoga mats, I guess that's cool, but it's kind of...
It's, I do know one thing is that with the way that I eat, there's so much food that I can't eat because of the taste of it. It's like, you've got to be kidding. How did this place become a multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company? This food is terrible. It tastes terrible. It has an aftertaste. I don't know, maybe my taste buds are much more tuned in, I guess. But, I recently had one of those sandwiches that we always called a hoagie sandwich when I was a kid. And I had a vegetarian one. It just loaded with vegetables and stuff. I took 2 bites out of it. I wrapped it up and I threw it in the garbage. It was like, I can't eat this. The vegetables did not even taste good. So they obviously, are commercial grade, crop dusted. They've got to make sure that food lasts as long as possible because of the cost involved. And so I can understand why that sandwich tasted so terrible. It's kind of like, I won't be financially supporting these businesses, and just like I don't financially support your local medical doctor.
Right.
There's things you can do for your health.
But it really, when the bottom line is that it is a choice that you have to make. Mm-hmm. That you're sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time, and you know what? If you make that personal choice to keep eating at these places and then continue to complain, why do I feel like crap all the time? Mm-hmm. Well, you need to rethink things, because a lot of as being a caregiver, one of the things like gout, I tell people, quit eating those stuff that has the seeds in it. It's there's stuff like, I know you said strawberries, but for somebody with a real bad gout, it's those little seeds on the strawberry that will inflame the gout. It's the seeds out of the kiwi that will.
Well, usually, gout is excess uric acid in the system that, from a lack of hydrochloric acid in the stomach, they don't properly break down and digest completely their animal protein. And this undigested protein, when it makes it through the digestive tract, it has a high amount of uric acid in that.
Right.
And that makes its way into absorption of that uric acid, makes its way into the bloodstream. And it tends to settle, uric acid will settle off into the joints. And a lot of times, that's where that extreme inflammation and that fire pain that they get in the joints, and it settles at the lowest point and seems to really affect the feet, the toes, the ankles. Yes.
Sure. I mean,
it's really difficult. So one thing that's good is using an alternative source of protein, like hemp seed protein, which is it's the highest vegetable source of protein, and it's nice and clean.
And plus, it's got the highest omega-3s and 6s.
Yes,
so
it
is. I keep it on hand. I figure everybody should keep that on hand.
It's true, because if you're looking for like even a protein drink, that's where I went through the Nature's Harvest and the Love and Peas. They're 100% vegan, but what's really, really good is they're lactose free. And hemp seed is certainly lactose free. So that blends really well into a high nutritive drink where you can add and bump up that protein so that you don't have muscle deterioration, any muscle wasting. You can still, a good amount of protein helps to build all of the muscles and tissue, because protein is the amino acids, and that's what every cell in the body needs, aminos, for rebuilding. But the thing is that you go to some of these whey protein drinks, and if you have any kind of intolerance to lactose, you're going to be miserable, absolutely miserable, within about an hour of drinking and ingesting some of these whey protein drinks. So I do always stay away from them because there is so much lactose intolerance for people. But the Love and Peas, the Nature's Harvest, adding some extra hemp protein into that, along with some extra, slippery elm for an extra boost of minerals and trace